This is what iconic Westminster, London, England looked like in 1982 compared to 2022. There is a lot of change. Looking at 4 different views: Westminster Bridge, Palace of Westminster, Westminster Abbey and St Margaret's Church, all listed buildings. This video aims to highlight the changes along with the history through the use of contemporary photos and video shot in 2022. Brought to you by Eclectic Experience, change seen through images. This is a view of Westminster Bridge in 1982. If we look in 2022, we can see a staggering amount of change. To provide context, this video was shot in 2022 from the same place on Westminster Bridge as the original photo in 1982. As we sweep round over Westminster Bridge, in the distance we can see government buildings, Millbank Tower and then the substantial new development around Vauxhall and Battersea. And then back to a comparable view across Westminster Bridge, looking at the Palace of Westminster, also known as the House of Parliament, with a good view of Big Ben. To start with, the buildings were a lot dirtier in 1982. This reflects the pollution of the time and that the stonework has since been cleaned. Also, the air was not clear due to the presence of diesel fumes and many other pollutants. Although faded, the original photo is actually in colour, which just shows how filthy it was in 1982. Westminster Bridge itself has hardly changed, as it is a Grade 2 star listed structure. It was opened in 1862 and is now the oldest road structure that crosses the Thames in central London. It is painted predominantly green, the same colour as the seats in the House of Commons, to reflect that it is the closest bridge to that part of Parliament. In contrast, Lambeth Bridge is painted red to reflect the colour of the seats in the House of Lords. Back to the road layout, and this has changed a lot. In 2017, following a terrorist attack, temporary barriers were introduced to protect pedestrians, and these were replaced with permanent ones in 2022, seen here just after installation. Another change has been the introduction of cycle lanes. Also, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, temporary one-way systems were put on the bridge for pedestrians, and these can still be seen in the 2022 image. Interestingly, a sight still seen in 2022 is horse droppings, as horses are still used for ceremonial purposes and the police use them for patrols in London. A big change is the building on the right of the picture, now replaced by Portcullis House, where the members of Parliament have their offices. A key feature of this new building, which opened in 2001, is the architecturally striking chimneys, which are not actually chimneys for smoke, but part of a green air conditioning system. As will be seen in all the old pictures, clothing and hairstyles were different back in the 1980s. This is the other side of the Palace of Westminster on St Margaret's Street in 1982 and now in 2022. The next 3 buildings we are looking at form a UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organisation, heritage site. The buildings are the Palace of Westminster, seen here, Westminster Abbey and St Margaret's Church. The Palace of Westminster is a Grade 1 listed building. Looking at the pictures side by side, as with the view over the bridge, it is clear how much dirtier the building was in 1982 compared to 2022. There are black streaks and patches all over it. Another change is railings. Looking in 2022, there are high railings sitting on the stone wall. But if we look closely in 1982, these weren't there. I assume they were introduced to increase security. The thing that is still the same is the statue of Oliver Cromwell, though it might be a bit cleaner now. The main part of this picture is actually the oldest part of the complex, Westminster Hall, part of which date back to 1097, when it was built by King William II, William the Conqueror's son. A few other points to note. The street lamps look like they are pretty much the same, but the road layout is very different, as are the cars and the fashion. Also, in 2022, you can see another side of Portcullis House with the prominent chimneys. This is a view of Westminster Abbey in 1982. If we look later in 2022, we can see some change. As mentioned before, the dirt really stands out, but not much else has changed. The road and path layout are much the same, though cars have. The cleaning of the stonework is the most significant change. In 2018, Luminaire London, an arts festival, lit up a number of London buildings, including Westminster Abbey, with coloured lights. This is what the Abbey looked like. This is one of the United Kingdom's best known religious buildings. All coronations of British monarchs have taken place here since the coronation of William the Conqueror in 1066. As an aside, at the bottom of the last clip was a gold post box. The gold boxes normally represent a specific gold medal winner at the 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games, but this one celebrated the project launch with London as the host city. There has been a building on this site for a very long time, but the current abbey was started by King Henry III in 1245. This is a 1982 side view of Westminster Abbey with the Church of St Margaret in the distance. In 1982, we can see very large numbers of people visiting the Abbey. This is still the case in 2022, the main difference being that visitors today pay an admission charge. In 1982, it was still free to visit as a tourist. It was not until 1997 that an admission charge was introduced, when it was receiving 1.75 million visitors a year. It is a working church and is of course free to enter to worship. Another change is the sign in 1982 advertising brass rubbing, which was very popular then, but was mainly stopped due to concerns that the brass rubbing to recreate the image on paper was actually wearing out these ancient brasses. The main building we can see in the photo is the Church of St Margaret's, known as the Church on Parliament Square. Its origins is a 12th century church. It is also the parish church for the House of Commons. It is a Grade 1 listed building and the third building to make up the UNESCO World Heritage Site. If you're interested in what a listed building is, I explain this in a video on the Old Vic, which I've referenced below. Back in 1982, I was curious why St Margaret's exists at all, when there is a huge church, Westminster Abbey, right next to it. On investigation, Westminster Abbey, as the name suggests, was originally an abbey, and the monks wanted a separate place for the locals to go to church so they would not be disturbed. The exact date the original church was built is unknown, but it was sometime in the 1100s. St Margaret's has been rebuilt and then restored a few times over the years. The present building was consecrated in 1523. Another curiosity are the blue clocks that sit on the tower, because they are actually sundials if you take a closer look. Unfortunately, the 1982 photo isn't clear enough to make out any details. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If so, please press the like button. I'll be aiming to make similar videos, so please subscribe to the channel, click the alerts bell and add any comments, especially with any additional information. Thank you for watching Eclectic Experience, change seen through images.